Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Market Friday. This is your host Apiwe Kwamanda. Now today I'm joined by Nomkhosi Dlamini. She is a phenomenal young woman, and I've actually heard a lot about her. So I'm very thankful that she's on the show today. Welcome to Market Friday, Nomkhosi.
Thank you, Apiwe. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you so much. So tell us about yourself.
Okay, so as you've already introduced me, my name is Nomkhosi Dlamini. I'm originally from Durban in KZN, but I'm now based in Fourways-Dainfern in Johannesburg. So I currently work for Nestle South Africa. It's currently referred to as Nestle ISA, which stands for Eastern Southern African Region. I work under the supply chain department and basically servicing the coffee and beverages business units.
Okay, so what did you study in university?
So I studied Bachelor of Commerce, majoring in supply chain management and economics management.
Okay. Now, like, what type of supply chain are you in right now?
Okay, so currently it's mainly supply planning. So it's mainly driven by planning and logistics planning.
Okay, and like, what type of what roadblocks would you say hinder people who are doing supply chain, and what advice would you give to someone who's doing supply chain right now?
Okay, so then with regards to hindrance, on my part, I'd say I didn't, entering the industry, I didn't have so many challenges, but just that I wasn't very aware of the industry until in university, because I actually started off as a become accounting student, but I then changed to become supply chain management and economics within my degree. So I'd say it was awareness. But once you get inside, there's just so many opportunities, like because supply chain is so broad. Although currently I'm focusing on planning, logistics, and imports, but it's just so diverse because there's also demand planning. So I'll say there's a lot of opportunities within supply chain. And then the other question, sorry, can you please repeat the second part of your question?
What advice would you give to someone who's doing supply chain right now?
Okay, so the advice I'd give to someone who's doing supply chain is to basically focus on what you're doing, focus on your studies, complete your degree or whatever form of education you are doing at the moment. And when you do get there into the industry, how can I put it? It's like success is not an event. Like you must be willing to work hard. You must be willing to start from the bottom, start from the beginning, take the time to grow in the profession. Basically, because it's so diverse, it's so broad. I started out in procurement, but I'm now in supply planning. Take your time to really understand where you're going to be strong at, and don't rush the process. Try to really apply yourself and be patient, and basically be able to grow and grasp everything within the field. And yeah, and success is inevitable. You will reach the success that you are looking for.
That's great. What are some of the changes like a small business owner can do to increase their supply chain, like the value of their supply chain?
Okay, so I'd say supply chain management is all about adding value. It's all about adding value at each and every point of the supply chain value stream. So I'd say, okay, so supply chain basically, it starts with the consumer, right? At the end of the day, it's about the consumer, and so it starts with the demand. So how do you make sure as a supply chain professional that you are adding the most value for your consumer and still satisfying the demand for your consumers, your customers, and your business? So then your supply chain will, because you have to start it from the beginning. You have to start it from the raw material side, because to get to your demand, to fulfill your demand, and to satisfy your consumers, you need to make sure that your raw materials, basically your input materials, you are negotiating the best deals, while getting the best quality, so that when it does get to, yeah, and sorry, the conversion processes, when you're basically converting your inputs, your raw materials, to the outputs, whatever it is that you're going to be selling to your consumers. So say for example, because I'm in the coffee business, say you are selling coffee, so you have to make sure that you are getting the best coffee beans, wherever it is you're sourcing it from, whether it's here in Africa, whether it's Southern America, wherever it is. Get the best and get the best deals, because at the end of the day, you want to sell the best quality at the best prices to your consumers. So it's all about adding the best value at each and every stage, from the beginning, from the inputs material to processing, making sure that you're very efficient in your processes. You're cutting costs wherever you can, or not really cutting costs, but you're very cognizant of the cost, your running costs, your water, your utilities, your electricity, your storage facilities. Do you need to store? Like, it's basically trying to get the right strategy for your business and for your business model, but adding the best value at each and every stage of the supply chain, and then going into distribution as well, moving that coffee to your consumers. Are you using the right networks? Are you using the right, are you getting the right deals in terms of transportation? It's basically adding value at each and every stage, each and every point of the supply chain, until you get to the final consumer. So by that, you are satisfying the consumer needs, and you are making money for yourself, because you're able to then offer the best competitive prices, best quality to your consumers, while then still getting good business for yourself.
Okay, so what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs right now?
Young entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So we actually, sure. So we actually in a very tough situation economically, as we currently dealing with this global pandemic, COVID-19. So it has actually it has actually brought about a lot of challenges, but within the challenges, there's so many opportunities. So, and I'll say this is the time where supply chain is really, it's really being challenged. This is the time where even businesses that have been running for years, so the businesses that are currently doing well are going to be doing well, especially if you're trading within the global environment. It's the businesses with strong supply chains, because at this point in time right now, it's about, number one, staying strong. It's about, number one, believing in your vision, why you started your business. So why you started your business, number one, whatever it may be, whether it's restauranting, whether it's manufacturing, but whatever your business is. And I believe most businesses in the current environment are trading in the global industry. They're trading globally. So it's about staying strong, first and foremost, because this time will pass.
Yeah.
It will go, but just that when it does pass, so many people are going to be in different shapes, are going to be in different situations than when this whole thing started. So it's about remaining strong. And if it means you need to change your business model because it's currently not working for this environment, then do that. Because you're finding that, like, at the moment, so much business is now done online. So if you are someone who was not in the online space, putting your business or your products or your markets online, this will be the best time to do so, because reducing the physical contact, social distancing. Like people are now scared or to literally to go out there. So if you're able to still be in business and provide your consumers with the products that they need without them having to go out to the stores like how we normally would do, they didn't do that. So I'd say online e-commerce, try to capitalize on that. Yeah, so those are the main platforms right now. So go online, basically do all your advertising or get your online strategy going, because that's really the way to go. And not just now. So the online business is going to be going on even past the COVID-19. So it's actually been there, it's been very strong, but now all businesses are forced to go online. They're forced to have a strong presence. And yeah, so that's number one. That's the way to go. And then another thing is, yeah, so as I was saying before, like my first point, so supply chain is, yeah, it's becoming even more important right now, because the businesses that are really going to do well are the businesses which have a very strong supply chain. Because right now it's going to be about who can get their products
Yeah.
the fastest to their consumers at the right time, at the right place, at the right price. And because consumers are also very price sensitive at the moment, we're all trying to be, we're all watching out for our pockets and trying to be very modest with our spending, like maybe not overspending. So we're trying to get the most affordable, economic, competitive product, but that can still meet our needs. So it's about getting your products on shelf at the right time, at the right place, with speed and quick response. And how do you do that? With having very strong supply chain networks, helping you to distribute and get your products there and still be competitive. So yeah, it's about that. And it's going to be about a lot of agility, being able to adapt to changes. These are very interesting times. So I believe even a lot of new businesses are going to be developed during this time. A lot of smart people are going to be identifying and seeing new gaps, and which it's actually going to birth new businesses which will go well into the future, even after COVID. But it's about being agile, having quick response, thinking on your feet, and things are just not the same anymore.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what do you like? Do you think that the South African market is more equipped to handle supply chain analysts or people who did supply chain, or do you think they're more fit to do or fit to handle people who in other roles?
Say yes. Yes, I'll say yes, they are. I believe South Africa, it's still a very predominantly, or it's an industry that is still, or it's a country, it's a society that's still very strong in manufacturing, in operations, and all those business sectors, manufacturing, operations, they all need supply chain professionals. I'd say now would be, in fact, this will be the time for them to realize and see the importance of supply chain professionals, with all these changes and all of, yeah, basically everything that's happening in and around us globally. So this is the time for them to really see the value, the importance of a very strong supply chain team, of very strong supply chain leadership, because it's actually at the very forefront right now wherever you go, whether it's in the medical sector, because the medical sector industry right now, it's needing a lot of PPE at a very fast or speedy or a fast. They basically need a fast response to get working during supply chain leadership. You need to have very strong people in procurement, sourcing the right deals for you, negotiating the right deals for you, whether it's finding those PPE requirements locally, whether it's going globally. They need to have the right contact. Where are we getting this PPE? Who are we partnering with? And if we need them here, like within, because you have to understand the lead times as well. If you're gonna be shipping, how can we best arrange? Like yeah. So basically, it's a lot. It's a lot of distribution, proper distribution networks being required. So it's partnering with the right people to make sure that you're getting these these products here on time, and you're not spending a lot of money doing it as well. You're not air freighting everything. You're not spending a lot of money on basically getting these products here. So it's about having very strong supply chain leadership. So that has been communicated. Yeah. So we've seen that the need for strong supply chain leadership in the medical sector, in manufacturing right now. So yeah, so this is actually the time where I'd say companies which were not taking their supply chain leadership seriously, this is the time where now they are forced to actually take the supply chain leadership very seriously and fully equip that leadership going into the future.
Okay. What are the highs and the lows you faced in your career? Because we all know it's not a smooth ride.
The highs and the lows. Okay, let me just take a moment. So yeah, no, you're right. So I'd say for me, okay, so you think that's, I'd say for me, it's about thinking that you're gonna, okay, so it's a very competitive industry. It's very demanding, right? Because as I said previously, it's very competitive. It's a very competitive field with regards to for organizations at the corporate strategic organizational level, because like right now it's about having the strongest supply chain. It's about as I said before, it's about getting your products out. It's about getting your product. It's about, yeah, getting your product there on time, at the right place, at the right price. And it's about being agile. It's basically organizations are competing with each other's supply chains right now, or have been and will continue to do so in the future. It's a very demanding industry. It's very demanding as in things happen in real time. Like, so because you do plan long term, you do have your strategic plans, but things happen in real time. Sometimes you literally have to change your plans um, in a very short space of time because it's so agile. We are working in a global environment. So call it, not many industries knew that we were going to have COVID-19 this year. So in last year, we had all of these plans. We had all of these plans for 2020. Yeah. So yeah, it's just an example of saying how it's a very challenging industry, which really needs quick response in all that you do. So I'd say that's the reality I've had to deal with, or one of the main challenges I've had to deal with in my career. Because all along, from very junior levels of my career, starting off, this was the rude awakening, or that I've had to deal with. But I'm now getting used to it. It's still there, but now I'm able to manage it better. I'm able to deal with it better. But it's a very dynamic, very need you to be there. It needs you because things need to be able to go back to the drawing board and basically be able, yeah, and still be able to deliver basic to the needs and targets of the business. Because although we're going through this, all corporates. So just to summarize it, the main challenge that I've had to deal with in my career, it's about um, you need to be agile. You need to be flexible. You need to be innovative, because things are always like the supply chain world, the supply chain industry. It's real time. Things are happening, and you need to be able to always stay ahead of the curve, and be able to be flexible and in your approaches, but keep your strategy the same, but be able to be flexible in your approach, basically. Yeah. And your business models, because things are always changing all the time, and it's about flexibility, being agile, and yeah, and always staying ahead of the curve. So that's the main challenge I've had to deal with. Quick response, speed. But those challenges are not becoming strengths in my career and in my own personal life.
Okay. So you went to UKZN, you studied supply chain. How was it different from what you studied to what you do now? Okay.
It was more theoretical. You learn theory parts. The theory parts is still there. Like the theory parts, like there's not much differences, although things evolving, they're changing all the time. But I'll say the theory that I learned, it's still, I can still see it, so I can apply it to my career. But the main difference is that the practical world, it's different. Like you are making decisions now in real time. So the practicality of it, that's the main different part, because it's like going to a driving test. It's like learning how to drive, right? So you learn all the basics in the drive. Like you learn the basics, where the steering wheel is, your clutch, your brake, accelerator, your they basically teach you how to, but they never teach you about the challenges that you're gonna encounter when you're on your own. So when you're still learning, there's someone holding your hand, but they never, like when you're on your own, like they never teach you basically the challenges that you then go through when you're all alone. So those are the things that you then learn with experience. So it's the practicality of it. That's what I found. It's very different. And yeah, and you're growing and you're learning all the time. And although varsity can prepare you on the theory part, but it can never prepare you. It can never prepare you with the real life, basically, yeah, what you have to then deal with when you enter the profession, when you enter the industry, and basically on your own personal growth as well. I think we all have different experiences. Like we've all had different experiences, all had different journeys, from where we started off in our careers as supply chain professionals or graduates. Um, so even that journey alone, like it's a very personal journey. It's a very personal career journey. What you then learn and run with, it's totally different from the classroom. So I'd say the practicality of it and having to make decisions on the spots based on all the information that you have at the time and the projections that you have of the future, because the information you have now, it directly has an impact on the future, and you're making decisions now for the future as well. So those are the things you then learn with experience. Those are the things you now learn, um, when you're physically there, going through the journey in the industry. So there's a lot of things that the classroom will never teach you, but it has a lot of relevance. It has a lot of relevance. And also currently, so I have a diploma in procurement, and so I'm actually registered with the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply Chain. So I have a diploma in procurement and supply chain, advanced diploma in procurement and supply chain, currently completing my professional diploma in procurement and supply chain. So as well, even that the content you learn there from CIPS, it's very relevant, but because they change their syllabus though very regularly, because they understand how dynamic and how much the industry keeps on changing. So that as well, it also helps, like the new content you're learning, because things don't stay the same. It's like it's a moving machine, it's a moving industry. So yeah, so the practicality of it is pretty much, it's more challenging, and you need to apply yourself more. But the university theory background, it does help you. It does formulate a good foundation. It does prepare you. But when you go there, when you go there in the practical world, it's a different ball game.
Okay, so tell us more about CIPS. I mean, please elaborate on that accreditation program.
Okay, so basically, CIPS, it's a global qualification for procurement, for basically individuals who are in the procurement and supply chain profession. It's globally recognized. So they have an educational component, an educational part to it. So where you actually do your formal qualification, your formal studying, to basically, so depending on what kind of accreditation or education or basically qualification you're looking for. So I'm currently trying to get my incites in CIPS, which is it's the highest qualification you can have within the Chartered Institutes of Procurement and Supply. So I'm actually doing my last year level. Currently, it's level 6. So there's different levels, entry levels. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, 5, and 6. So I entered through level 4. So a lot of professionals who already have a degree within supply chain or have some experience in supply chain, they normally start at level 4, which is where I started. I did my level 4, which is a diploma in procurement and supply, completed that. I did my advanced diploma in procurement and supply, professional diploma in procurement and supply chain. So you then, it's basically like it's a professional license to trade within a procurement and supply chain, and it's a globally recognized qualification. Um, yeah, it's well recognized in Europe, here in Africa, I think in the US as well. Not, yeah, in the US, Australia. So it's globally recognized, globally accredited. Yeah, and it actually, because it's basically trying to how can I put it? It's basically trying to bring some uniformity and professionalism within the within supply chain professionals, so that when you meet someone, a professional from Europe who has the CIPS qualification, and someone from Africa, so they basically speaking the same language within supply chain, it's basically trying to bring some uniformity and to some professionalism in the profession. So it's a good qualification to have if you're someone in supply chain and still see yourself having, still planning to have a longer career within supply chain.
Okay, and how is it any different from a university degree?
How's it any different from a university degree? I'm not sure with regards to the credits, right? The credits that you have to get within your formal degree qualification and CIPS. But what I do know is that the contents, it basically covers everything that you did. It covers everything that you did under your undergraduate degree, of which that's what I've picked up, but it goes over and above, right? It goes over and above the contents that you've actually learned. It actually it brings in even much more real life case studies, because all the case studies that you'll find there are case studies that have happened in real life for real organizations. So I'd say it's a very good qualification to have. It's very practical. Yeah, but the content it basically covers what you do in university, and it goes over and above what you did. So yeah, it's a good qualification to have in conjunction with your formal undergraduate's supply chain qualification. So I basically recommend it to anyone who's in supply chain and planning to have a longer career within supply chain.
Okay, and do you need to have a degree to get in, or someone straight out of high school can walk in and just get an accreditation from CIPS instead?
Okay, I don't want to lie to you because I'm not really I'm not really sure on the academic side with how they then decide how they admit students into the qualification. But I do know that it starts from a certification level. I do know that they do have a program that caters for people who don't have a university degree. That I do know, whereby you basically have to then start with some certificates. Yeah, but I'm sure if you then go to if you contact, I can give you contact details of people from CIPS, just for the purposes if you then want to bring more awareness to students or any other viewer who be then viewing the program. Because to be quite honest, I know that they do have a program for people who don't have a formal BCom or formal university qualification for them to start off. Then they have a starting off level for people who do have a university degree. So I think they do have a way to cater for people who don't have a degree, but for then the further details of how they do that, I then have to really confirm with them
Okay.
on that
Okay.
structure, on those structures.
No
Yeah.
problem. So, for the second to last question, why supply chain? I mean, I guess it's just like you come out of high school and just be like, I want to do supply chain, or were you still in primary? So why supply chain?
Exactly. So that's, remember, beginning of the interview, I said, when you're starting off, like it's okay. When I started off, it's not something that's like on your face.
Hmm.
It's some, because even for me, it's something that I then found out more about when I was in university. So it was quite, how can I put it? It was the dynamics, because it started off as it was a module that I did in first year, but what's very interesting about how dynamic it is, it's basically the value add, the adding value to each, because it's involved in basically it's involved in basically all businesses, like
Yeah.
all forms of industries. Like they can basically benefit from supply chain leadership. So I think that's number one. What got me, because I'm highly interested in business. So it was actually a qualification that really speaks to the needs, the practical needs of the business. I'd say that was the main thing that basically interested me in supply chain. So it's quite real, it's quite relevant, and it's basically gets things moving, because I remember even in my first interview for my first formal job that I then got after that interview, it was actually with so they asked me why supply chain. I said it's how dynamic it is and how real and how practical it is. It's about, number one, the water. When you open up the tap in the morning, when you open up the tap to use your shower, a supply chain is there. Like there had to be a way of trying to get that water distributed to your. Obviously, there's a lot of engineering work that was involved, but a lot of supply chain work, the end product that you then get, getting that water in your shower, the cereal, the cereal that you have in the morning, um, how did that box of cereal get there? It was a lot of supply chain involved from the beginning, from sourcing the raw material inputs, to processing, to distributing it, to ultimately getting it to your table. The coffee that you drink, basically it's in even the books that you read, so there's basically a lot of there's a lot of supply chain involved, the clothes that you're wearing. So it's in and amongst us, it's practical, it's real.
It's real
That's what
time.
it's all about. It's real.
So for the
True.
last question, and just rounding up, if you can tell your 21-year-old self something, what would it be?
My 21-year-old something, it would be, um don't stress, everything is working out, it's going to work out. And just breathe, relax. Everything is going to happen exactly as you are imagining. I will tell my 21-year-old self that success is not an event, right? Success is not an event, and it doesn't happen overnight. You need to be willing to put in the hard work, you know. Um, you need to, and whatever dreams you have, they are all attainable, they are all within your reach. Just that you need to stay focused, believe in them, and be willing to work hard, be willing to protect your dreams and work hard for them. So that's what I'll really tell my 21-year-old self.
Okay, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure having you on the podcast today.
Thank you, Apiwe. Thank you for having me. I hope my interview session will speak or even touch even one person. It would really then make a difference for me. So, but thank you for having me.